Good afternoon, and welcome to this press conference on our proposal for a framework for a new European digital identity. I'm delighted to have Executive Vice President Margrethe Vestager with us this afternoon. Good afternoon. And Commissioner for the Internal Market, Thierry Breton. Bonjour. We have just published our press materials, IP, memo, and fact sheet in all the EU languages. We have now interpretation for you in English, French, and Danish. And without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to Executive Vice President Margrethe Vestager.
Well, thank you very much for this, and thank you for having us in the press room, because this is indeed a good day. We paved the way for a European digital identity available for everyone in this union. This EID was one of the priorities that the Commission promised to deliver when we took office. And it's a major step to facilitate our daily life and to move around easily between member states. It will help to achieve some of the targets that we set in the Digital Compass, and this includes having 80% of EU citizens using EID solutions by 2030. To put it in a straightforward way, what this is all about. The EID will enable us to do in any member state what we can do at home, and that without extra costs and with fewer hurdles. Be that in renting a flat or opening a bank account. Actually, quite a number of people would do that outside of their home country. And at the same time, our proposal ensures that we do this in a way that is secure, that is transparent, so that we feel confident that our data is safe and it's only used for the purposes needed. Anyone that ever, I think, had a chat with an Erasmus student knows about the endless hassle of having their identity documents sent back and forth from their home to their host country, when all they wish to do is something simple like opening a bank account. We all have experienced the waiting hours in front of administration desks to renew an ID card. Some, if not many of us, have experienced the unpleasant feeling of having to share our personal data to access a service or a platform without any idea as to what will happen with that information. In 2014, as a response to these challenges, we adopted the regulation on electronic identification and trust services for electronic transaction in the internal market. Couldn't be shorter, so of course it's called the eIDAS regulation. But 7 years later, only 14 member states have notified an electronic identification. And only 14% of providers of key public services across all member states allow for cross-border identification or authentication with an identity system. And this fragmentation means more red tape, loss of time for people, loss of time for income for businesses, undermining the single market. And this is precisely what this proposal aims to solve by amending the eIDAS communication regulation. And practically, we introduce three main improvements in the current regulation. First, from now on, all member states have to provide people and businesses with a digital identity solution. So we oblige them to offer an electronic ID. This is not an option anymore, it's an obligation for member states. And it's a right for all citizens to use it if they want to. Second, this digital identity will have to be mutually recognized in all member states, so your digital identity is as valid as your paper identity all across Europe. Third, it puts all of us in full control of our personal data. Only we decide how much information will be stored and shared in our electronic ID. So how will it work? Well, in practice, each member state will provide citizens and businesses with a so-called digital wallet. It's like having a secure folder where you can store your identity card, your driver's license, your educational certificates, your marriage certificate. It's like a wallet in your pocket or in your bag. And it will be for each member state, and they can find a recognized and trusted provider to issue the wallet. Each of us will then be able to use it to store our EID, to prove our identity, and also to share information about ourselves all over Europe. And it is very sensitive. It's our identity and the data that goes with it. And this is why this process will only work if we can trust it. As users, we need to trust that our data will not be misused. On the other side, our interlocutor, whether that be a customs official or a banker, need to trust that the data we are sharing is true, is valid, is authentic. From a user's perspective, this proposal puts you in the driving seat. We're in control. The digital wallet allows us only to share what we strictly want and need to share. Take the example of young people sitting in a bar. To serve them a beer, the waiter needs to know that they are above the legal drinking age. But the waiter doesn't need to know where they live or where they were born. With this wallet, they will be able only to give specific proof of their legal age and no more. Now turn the table around. That waiter needs to be confident that the proof of age that he is given is authentic. And to do this, our proposal foresees that the information stored in the wallet will be certified by a qualified trust service provider. The provider of the wallet is also responsible for securing that the wallet is safe so that no one can hack into our data. Our proposal therefore creates a chain of trust that makes sure that all parties can exchange information and services in a restricted, in a secure and confidential way. For this to work, we need to make it practical. People will only use their digital wallets if it makes their lives easier. Member states will need to make sure that the technology behind the digital wallet is easy to use for everyone. And the wallet would allow for access to a full range of services, public as well as private. In fact, we also make it mandatory to accept it for very large online platforms, as well as central providers of services like transport, electricity companies, or banks. These providers have to propose the European ID in addition to their own lock-in systems. So we can choose how we identify ourselves and add control on our personal data once we use our own identity. And that leads me to my last point. There are wider positive effects of the European EID. It can help accelerate our digitization by creating new demands for digital solutions. We already see this happening in public services. The digitization of public services makes it more simple for businesses to do their administration online. This, in turn, boosts the digitization of businesses. And likewise, the very high standards of security and personal data protection behind the digital wallet may encourage private platforms to strengthen and improve their own identification systems. In parallel to the legislative process, we are also putting forward a framework of cooperation between member states and actors from public and private sector so that they can start developing together the technical aspect of the European digital identity. On this note, it's worth mentioning that most member states have included e-government reforms such as implementation of the EID as part of their national plans under the Recovery and Resilience Facility. So we have the political will, we have the financial means to get it right. When working together, we can really make this happen. And here, of course.